The package on Dr. Elise Carter's desk moved. Not a twitch, not a shift, a deliberate, unsettling ripple beneath the tape, like something inside had been waiting patiently for her to notice. Her lab assistant, Derek, took a step back. "Please tell me your brother didn't mail you another one of his terrible jokes." Then the box purred. Elise reached in, fingers brushing impossibly soft fur, just as two golden eyes blinked up at her. And in that moment, she made 3 fatal mistakes. She touched it. She named it. And worst of all, she kept it. "Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land." All right, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The package sat on Dr. Elise Carter's desk, its plain brown wrapping and frayed edges looking completely out of place against the sleek metal surfaces of Orion Research Outpost's main lab. She tapped her fingers against the table, eyeing the unassuming box with a mixture of amusement and suspicion. Another care package from her brother Marcus, probably filled with more of his terrible attempts at humor. Last time, it had been a rubber alien that screamed when you squeezed it, nearly giving poor Derek a heart attack during late-night specimen cataloging. You gonna open that or just stare it into submission? Derek Cho leaned against the cryo storage unit, his lab coat hanging open over a faded band t-shirt. At 32, he was the youngest on the science team, though the dark circles under his eyes made him look older. If it's more of Marcus's idea of comedy, I vote we space it immediately. Elise rolled her eyes, her shoulder-length auburn hair catching the sterile lab lights as she shook her head. "Oh, come on." The screaming alien was funny. Funny. Derek's voice cracked. "I nearly dropped a vial of Xenon 9. Do you know what that stuff does to human skin?" "Relax, drama queen." Elise grabbed a laser scalpel from her toolkit. "I'll open it carefully. But if it's another one of those zero-gravity whoopee cushions, I'm sending Marcus a very angry message." The laser sliced through the tape with a faint hiss. As the flaps parted, something inside shifted with a soft, rustling sound. Elise froze, the scalpel hovering midair. Derek straightened up, his playful smirk vanishing. "Please tell me I imagined that." Before Elise could respond, the box moved again, a deliberate, unmistakable shift. Then came a sound, not the shriek of Marcus's last prank, but something far more unsettling, a deep, resonant purr that seemed to vibrate through the metal desk. Elise's scientific curiosity overpowered her caution. She reached forward slowly, her fingers just brushing the cardboard flaps when 2 glowing golden eyes blinked up at her from the darkness inside. "What the hell?" Derek was at her side in an instant, his breath coming fast. "Elise, back up. Now." But Elise couldn't look away. The creature, because it was definitely alive, made another sound, this time a high-pitched coo that shouldn't have been possible from something that small. Without thinking, she reached into the box. "Are you insane?" Derek grabbed her wrist. "We have protocols for unknown organisms." "It's harmless," Elise murmured, shaking him off. Her fingers made contact with impossibly soft fur, like velvet over warm stone. The moment she touched it, the creature pressed into her hand with a contented rumble, its oversized ears twitching happily. Derek took 3 rapid steps backward, nearly tripping over a stool. "Nope, absolutely not. That thing is not Earth native, not station approved, and definitely not staying in my lab." Elise barely heard him. The creature, now fully visible in the light, was unlike anything she'd seen in her 12 years of xenobiology, about the size of a house cat, with a round, teddy bear face, but with the sleek musculature of a panther. Its fur shifted colors in the light, from deep ebony to shimmering bronze. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's a biohazard waiting to happen," Derek countered, already tapping at his wrist comm. "I'm calling station security." The creature chose that moment to stretch, revealing needle-thin claws that retracted immediately as it rolled onto its back, presenting its belly to Elise with complete trust. Before dash, Derek threw his hands up. Don't tell me you're falling for the cute act. That thing could be venomous, or carnivorous, or worse. Elise carefully scooped the creature into her arms. It immediately nuzzled against her chest, purring like a miniature engine. Look at it, Derek. Does this look dangerous to you? Before Derek could answer, the creature's head snapped up. Its nostrils flared. Then, without warning, it licked Elise's wrist with a tongue that felt strangely textured, almost electric. Elise gasped as a wave of dizziness hit her. For one disorienting second, the world smelled like cinnamon and something else, something ancient and metallic. Then it was gone. You okay? Derek's voice sounded far away. You just spaced out for a second. Elise blinked rapidly. Yeah, fine. Just tired. She didn't mention the way her skin still tingled where the creature had licked her, or how its pupils had dilated to black pools when their eyes met. The creature curled against her again, its claws pricking ever so slightly through her lab coat. Not enough to hurt. I could if I wanted to. Derek sighed, running a hand through his messy black hair. Fine. But when this thing eats your face off, don't come crying to me. Elise smiled, scratching behind the creature's ears. It responded with a chirp that sounded suspiciously like laughter. Don't worry. I think we're going to be just fine. If only she'd known how wrong she was. Chapter 2. The creature, which Elise had tentatively named Nibbles despite Derek's protests, had been surprisingly well-behaved for its first 48 hours aboard the station. It followed Elise everywhere like a fuzzy shadow, curling up on her lap during reports and perching on her shoulder during lab work. The only time it showed any aggression was when Station Chief Ramirez tried to scan it, at which point it bared needle-like teeth and emitted a subsonic growl that made the equipment malfunction. Derek leaned against the bioscanner, watching as Nibbles batted playfully at a floating hologram of protein chains. I still say we should quarantine it. We don't know what kind of pathogens it might be carrying. Elise rolled her eyes, adjusting the collar of her form-fitting navy blue biosuit. Relax, mother hen. Full spectrum scan shows it's cleaner than you after deck and shower. Har har. Derek threw a nutrient pack at her, which Nibbles intercepted midair with terrifying precision. See? That's not normal. The creature chirped happily as it tore into the foil packet with surgical precision, somehow managing to consume the contents without puncturing the material. Elise exchanged an impressed glance with Derek. Okay, Derek admitted grudgingly. That was impressive. Nibbles preened under the attention, its golden eyes gleaming with what looked suspiciously like smugness. Then suddenly it froze, ears twitching toward the ventilation shaft. A low, vibrating hum began emanating from its chest. Elise reached out cautiously. Nibbles? What's dash? The creature launched itself at her face. Elise barely had time to flinch before it was nuzzling frantically against her cheek, its purring now at a frequency that made her teeth vibrate. Whoa there, buddy. She tried to gently detach it, but its claws had latched onto her collar with surprising strength. Derek, little help? Derek took one step forward before stopping dead, his face draining of color. Elise, your eyes. What about them? She reached up instinctively, then froze as she caught her reflection in a nearby monitor. Her normally hazel irises were glowing faintly amber, with thin golden filaments radiating through the whites. Nibbles made a satisfied, chittering noise and licked her temple, sending another wave of that strange cinnamon metal scent through her senses. This time, the effect was stronger. Her vision swam with flashes of unfamiliar constellations, strange plants with bioluminescent leaves, and towering structures that looked grown rather than built. Elise! Derek's voice cut through the visions. He was holding her upright, his grip painfully tight on her shoulders. Talk to me. What's happening? She blinked rapidly, the golden hue in her eyes fading but not disappearing entirely. I think it's showing me things. Memories, maybe? Before Derek could respond, the station's AI chimed in with its usual calm monotone. though the message was anything but reassuring. Warning: unidentified pheromone spike detected in Sector 4. Containment protocol initiated. Derek's grip tightened. Pheromones? What the hell kind of pheromones? Nibbles chose that moment to leap gracefully onto a console, its tail flicking with obvious satisfaction as the vents automatically sealed with a hiss of hydraulics. The creature's golden eyes gleamed with something far too intelligent for an animal as it watched the red containment lights begin to flash. Elise's stomach dropped as realization hit. Oh no, Derek, containment protocol means dash, they think we're contaminated. Derek finished grimly, already moving toward the emergency comms panel. We need to explain this before they gas the whole sector. Nibbles made a sound suspiciously like laughter as it curled around Elise's neck, its purring vibrating through her bones. She could feel its tiny claws pricking through her biosuit. Not enough to break skin, but enough to leave no doubt. It wasn't letting go. And as the first locks engaged on the lab doors, Elise had the sinking feeling that whatever was happening to her, it was only just beginning. Chapter 3. Elise woke with a start, her body drenched in sweat despite the station's climate-controlled environment. The chronometer on the wall showed she'd only been asleep for 2 hours, but every nerve in her body was screaming like she'd run a marathon. She threw off the thin thermal blanket, her hands trembling as she reached for the water dispenser. Nibbles was already awake, perched on the bedside table with an intensity that made its golden eyes glow like miniature suns in the dim light. Its tail twitched in a slow, rhythmic pattern that matched the pounding in Elise's temples. "What did you do to me?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. The creature merely blinked, its head tilting to one side as if considering the question. The moment her bare feet touched the cold metal floor, a wave of dizziness hit her so hard she had to grab the wall for support. Her skin felt hypersensitive. The brush of her sleep shirt against her nipples sent unexpected jolts of electricity down her spine. When she finally made it to the small bathroom, the sight in the mirror made her gasp. Her eyes weren't just glowing amber anymore. Thin golden veins now spread across her cheekbones like delicate lacework, pulsing faintly with each heartbeat. She turned on the faucet with shaking hands, splashing cold water on her face, but the markings didn't fade. A sharp knock at her quarters door made both her and Nibbles jump. "Elise, you alive in there?" Derek's voice was muffled through the thick metal. "You missed your shift. Vaughn's pissed." She swallowed hard, grabbing a lab coat to cover the markings creeping down her neck. "I'm fine. Just overslept. Give me 5 minutes." The pause on the other side of the door lasted just a little too long. "You sound like hell. Let me in." Nibbles hissed softly, its claws extending and retracting in agitation. Elise took a deep breath before hitting the door release. Derek's usual sarcastic greeting died on his lips as he got a proper look at her. His dark eyes widened as they traveled from her glowing eyes to the golden veins now peeking above her collar. "Jesus Christ, Elise, what the hell is happening to you?" Before she could answer, Nibbles launched itself onto Derek's shoulder with unnatural speed. He yelped, trying to bat it away, but the creature merely sniffed at his neck before making a disgusted chuffing sound and leaping back to Elise. "Okay, that was weirdly insulting," Derek muttered, rubbing his shoulder where Nibbles' claws had pricked through his shirt. Elise sank on her bunk, her legs suddenly weak. "It's getting worse, Derek. I'm seeing things when I sleep, places I've never been, creatures I've never seen. And the smells." She shuddered, like cinnamon and something metallic burning. Derek crouched in front of her, his medical training overriding his usual flippant attitude. He pulled a scanner from his pocket and ran it over her forehead. The device immediately started beeping erratically. "That's not possible. Your hormone levels are off the charts. Your adrenal output looks like someone in mid-combat." And he trailed off, staring at the readings in disbelief. "And what?" Elise grabbed his wrist, her grip stronger than she intended. "Tell me," Derek met her gaze, his expression grim. And your DNA is literally rewriting itself. There are base pair sequences here that don't exist in any human genome database. Nibbles chose that moment to curl around Elise's neck, purring loudly as its claws gently kneaded her shoulders. A wave of calm washed over her, the golden veins pulsing brighter for a moment before settling into a steady glow. Derek's scanner suddenly sparked and died in his hands. "Well, that's just great," he muttered, shaking the smoking device. "Third one this week." Elise stood abruptly, the sudden movement making the room spin. "We need to run more tests. Full cellular workup, neurotransmitter mapping, maybe even dash the station's emergency klaxon, cut her off," the piercing wail making both of them wince. A moment later, Vaughn's voice boomed over the comm system. "All personnel to stations. Unidentified vessel approaching at high velocity. This is not a drill." Derek and Elise exchanged a look. Nibbles' ears perked up, its entire body vibrating with what looked like anticipation. It made a series of rapid clicking noises, then did something entirely unexpected. It smiled, revealing far too many needle-sharp teeth. Elise's golden veins flared brighter as a new wave of foreign sensations crashed over her. This time, there was no mistaking what she felt: recognition, longing, and something far more primal. "Oh no," she whispered, her glowing eyes widening in realization. "It's calling them." Derek grabbed her arm as she swayed. "Calling who?" The answer came not from Elise, but from the station's shuddering bulkheads as something massive docked with a resounding clang that vibrated through the metal floors. Nibbles leapt to the viewport, chirping excitedly as it stared out at the sleek, organic-looking ship now attached to their airlock. Elise's voice was barely above a whisper when she finally answered. "It's owners." Chapter 4. The station's emergency lighting cast everything in pulsing red hues as Elise and Derek sprinted down the corridor toward the command center. Nibbles clung to Elise's shoulder, its claws digging through her lab coat as it chittered excitedly. Every few steps, another wave of that strange cinnamon metal scent would wash over her, making the golden veins beneath her skin throb in response. They nearly collided with Chief Ramirez at the command center entrance. The normally composed security officer looked harried, his dark hair sticking up in all directions as he waved them inside. "About damn time." Vaughn's been dash, his words cut off abruptly as he got a proper look at Elise's glowing eyes and the golden filigree now creeping down her neck. "What in the seven hells happened to you?" Before she could answer, Vaughn's booming voice cut through the chaos of the command center. "Carter, get your ass over here now." Captain Rourke Vaughn stood at the central display, his massive frame blocking most of the view screen. When he turned, his weathered face was set in grim lines. "We've got an unidentified life form attempting to board through Airlock 3. Security systems are failing one by dash." His steel-gray eyes narrowed as he took in Elise's condition. "What the fuck?" Derek stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Elise. "Sir, we have reason to believe Dr. Carter's condition is related to the approaching vessel." Vaughn's jaw worked silently for a moment before he pointed to the security feed, then explained that. The screen showed Airlock 3's exterior camera. The alien ship wasn't just docked. It had grown tendrils of black metal that were slowly fusing with the station's hull. But what made Elise's breath catch was the figure standing motionless before the inner airlock door. Tall, at least 7 feet, with an onyx exoskeleton that gleamed under the emergency lights. Golden markings identical to Elise's pulsed across its body in rhythmic waves. Nibbles let out an ear-piercing shriek of recognition and launched itself at the view screen, claws screeching against the composite surface. "Get that thing under control." Vaughn roared. Elise grabbed Nibbles mid-leap, the creature twisting in her grip to nuzzle frantically at her wrist. The moment its tongue touched her skin, another wave of images flooded her mind. A planet with twin suns, towering organic spires, and most disturbingly, rows of creatures like the one at the airlock, all watching her with golden eyes. She gasped, staggering back into Derek. They're not invading. They're here for me. Ramirez snorted. That's the dumbest. The station AI interrupted, its normally calm voice now edged with static. Warning. Outer airlock integrity compromised. Inner door will fail in approximately 60 seconds. Vaughn made a decision instantly. Ramirez, lock down Sector 3. Full containment protocols. Joe, get Carter to medical, NO. Elise surprised herself with the vehemence of her protest. You don't understand. They won't stop. Look what their ship is doing to ours. She pointed at the screen where the alien tendrils were now visibly spreading across the hull like creeping vines. As if in response, the alien at the airlock suddenly moved, placing one clawed hand against the door. The metal beneath its touch rippled like liquid, glowing lines spreading outward in a fractal pattern. 50 seconds to door failure, the AI announced. Vaughn's hand hovered over the security lockdown. Then explain fast, Carter, because that thing looks damn hostile to me. Nibbles squirmed in Elise's grip, making a series of urgent clicking sounds. The golden markings on her skin flared brighter, pulsing in sync with the alien's movements on screen. She took a shuddering breath. It's a Zithri bondweaver, not a pet, a matchmaker. The words tumbled out as the visions from Nibbles grew clearer. Their species is dying. They send these creatures out to find compatible mates. And when they do, Derek finished the thought, his voice hollow. They come to collect. The lights flickered violently as a deep, resonant hum vibrated through the station's superstructure. On screen, the airlock door began to warp inward, the metal groaning under some unimaginable pressure. 30 seconds to door failure, the AI warned. Vaughn's hand slammed down on the lockdown control. Then we'll give them a damn reception committee. Ramirez, arm the plasma rifles. Cho, get Carter. Elise never heard the rest of the order. Nibbles suddenly went rigid in her arms, its entire body vibrating. The golden veins across her skin flared white-hot, and for one blinding second, she could see through the creature's eyes, could feel the alien's presence like a physical weight against her consciousness. Then all the lights went out. Chapter 5. The darkness lasted only seconds before emergency lighting flickered back on, casting the command center in eerie crimson shadows. Elise blinked rapidly, her golden-veined vision adjusting faster than the others. Another unsettling change in her physiology. Nibbles had gone completely still in her arms, its golden eyes fixed on the security feed where the airlock door was now bulging inward at impossible angles. Ramirez cursed, fumbling with his plasma rifle. Why aren't the backup systems? A deafening metallic screech cut him off as the airlock door tore free from its hinges, spinning across the corridor in a shower of sparks. The Zithri warrior stepped through the wreckage, its onyx exoskeleton glistening under the emergency lights. Up close, it was even more terrifying, easily 7 feet tall, with elongated limbs that moved with liquid grace. The golden markings pulsed faster as its faceted eyes scanned the room before locking onto Elise. Vaughn didn't hesitate. He stepped between Elise and the alien, his sidearm drawn. Stop right there. This is a federation. The Zithri moved faster than anything that size should. One moment, it was 10 feet away. The next, it had Vaughn pinned against the wall with a single clawed hand around his throat. The captain's boots dangled a foot off the ground. Don't shoot. Elise's voice came out sharper than intended, laced with something that wasn't entirely human. The golden veins across her skin flared brighter. You'll just make it angry. Derek grabbed her arm, his grip painfully tight. Elise, your voice. She shook him off without meaning to, her movements suddenly stronger, more precise. Nibbles leapt from her arms and landed gracefully at the Zithri's feet, chittering in that strange, clicking language. The alien tilted its head, studying Vaughn for a long moment before releasing him with a dismissive flick. Vaughn collapsed to his knees, gasping. Ramirez raised his rifle, but Elise was moving before he could fire. She stepped directly into the line of fire, her golden eyes blazing. "Put it down, Ramirez. Unless you want to explain to command why you shot first contact in the face." The security chief hesitated, his finger twitching on the trigger. The Zithari made a sound like grinding crystal. Laughter, Elise realized with sudden certainty. It reached out one clawed hand toward her face, stopping inches away as if waiting for permission. Derek made a strangled noise. "Elise, don't." She ignored him, leaning into the touch. The moment the Zithari's claws brushed her skin, the visions returned with overwhelming clarity. Not just images this time, but emotions. Loneliness, purpose, need. The creature's golden markings flared in perfect sync with her own, creating a feedback loop of light that pulsed through the darkened command center. Nibbles trilled in satisfaction, winding between their legs like some demented matchmaker. The Zithari spoke for the first time, its voice a resonant vibration that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "KSSSDHHH The words meant nothing, yet Elise understood perfectly. "Mine." Derek paled. "Did it just yes?" Elise breathed, her voice taking on that strange harmonic quality. She didn't resist as the Zithari gathered her into its arms with shocking gentleness, its exoskeleton warm and humming against her skin. The golden markings where they touched flared white-hot, filling the room with blinding light. When it faded seconds later, the most shocking change wasn't the Zithari's now protective stance. It was Elise's transformation. The golden veins had receded, leaving her skin flawless, but for a single intricate marking like a tattoo over her heart. Her eyes still glowed, but the amber had deepened to match the Zithari's own. Vaughn finally found his voice, hoarse from nearly being strangled. "Carter, what the hell just happened?" Elise turned to face them, her movements unconsciously mirroring the Zithari's predatory grace. "The bonding is complete." She blinked, as if surprised by her own words. "It's hard to explain, like I know things I shouldn't. Their language, their customs." She touched the marking over her heart. Their desperation. The Zithari made a series of clicking sounds that Nibbles immediately echoed. Elise nodded, as if she understood every syllable. Derek looked like he might be sick. "So what now? It just takes you." The Zithari growled the word takes, its golden markings flashing angrily. Elise placed a calming hand on its arm, an intimate gesture that didn't escape Derek's notice. "No," she said softly. "Now we negotiate." Her glowing eyes met Vaughn's. Because they didn't come for just me. They came for all of us. The station's remaining lights flickered ominously as the Zithari ship outside pulsed in response to her words, its organic metal tendrils tightening ever so slightly around the hull. Not enough to crush, just enough to remind everyone who held the power now. Chapter 6. The station's conference room had never felt so small. Elise sat between the Zithari warrior, who had to crouch to fit under the ceiling, and a visibly shaken Captain Vaughn. Nibbles perched on the table between them, preening like a proud parent at an awkward family reunion. Derek kept shooting glances at the alien's razor-sharp claws, currently resting inches from Elise's thigh, his fingers twitching toward the sidearm he'd wisely left holstered. Vaughn cleared his throat, rubbing at the bruises forming on his neck. "Let's start with basics. Can it understand us?" Elise tilted her head, listening to the subtle clicks and hums coming from the Zithari. "He understands more than he can speak. Their vocal cords aren't built for human languages." She paused, her golden-marked skin pulsing faintly. "His name is..." She made a series of clicking sounds that made Nibbles chirp in approval. Derek raised an eyebrow. "That's not a name. That's a malfunctioning hard drive." The Zithari growled, but Elise placed a calming hand on his arm, an effortless gesture that made Derek's jaw tighten. "We'll call him Kes for now. It's close enough." Ramirez still gripping his plasma rifle like a security blanket, snorted. Great. Now that we're all buddy-buddy, maybe someone can explain why his ship is currently molesting our station. Kes made a sound that might have been amusement, his faceted eyes tracking Ramirez's nervous fidgeting. When he spoke, the translator band Elise had cobbled together from lab equipment crackled to life, rendering his words in a deep, synthetic voice. The ship is alive. It tastes your technology. Vaughn paled. It's eating us. Learning, Elise corrected quickly. She touched the golden marking on her chest absently. The Zithri don't build machines, they grow them. Their entire civilization is based on bioengineering. Derek leaned forward, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his discomfort. So that ship out there is actually a living organism? Kes nodded, reaching out to trace a claw along the conference table. Where he touched, the metal shimmered briefly before returning to normal. All things can be alive, if given the right spark. His glowing eyes fixed on Derek with sudden intensity. Your people build dead things. This is why you die so easily. A heavy silence fell over the room. Elise shifted uncomfortably, the new connection between her and Kes humming with unspoken thoughts. She could feel his frustration with her slow comprehension, his people's desperation, and something else, something warm and possessive that made her cheeks flush. Vaughn broke the silence with his usual bluntness. Okay, Alien Romeo, let's cut to the chase. You sent your furry little matchmaker here to kidnap one of my scientists. What? Kes's golden markings flared angrily, but Elise squeezed his arm before he could respond. It's not kidnapping, she said quietly. Their species is dying. The Bond Weavers, she gestured to Nibbles, seek out compatible mates across the galaxy. Will they find one? She trailed off, suddenly aware of every eye in the room on her. Derek finished for her, his voice flat. They come collect, like some interstellar mail-order bride service. Kes moved faster than anyone could react. 1 second he was seated, the next he had Derek pinned against the wall, his claws centimeters from the scientist's throat. You speak of things you do not understand. The translator band spat, its synthetic voice dripping with venom. The last song has begun.